What are your best, this customer is totally trying to mess with us, stories? Story 1. I used to work for The Source, a Radio Shack in the US, in a very low traffic area so we wouldn't get any people who come in just to browse like at the malls. People came in with an idea of what they wanted, and it was up to me to get it for them. So I'm alone, the manager is on lunch, and this old frail lady walks in. I ask if I can help her, and she gives me a scoff and rolls her eyes. I need a cell phone. I help her out as much as I can. I tell her that pay-as-you-go is the cheapest rate and that have no contracts to bind her. She seems pleased but decides to purchase a Rogers phone and a 2-year contract. Whatever, more commission for me. 3 weeks later, she comes in unhappy and asks to return the phone. I explain to her that it would cost around $400 to cancel the plan she's created and that she's too late for a refund, 15 days max. She gets pissed and storms out. 2 months later, she comes in, attitude up the wazoo, tells me that I sold her a busted phone and she wants all of her money back. I was alone again, so I asked her to give me her phone so I could look at it. I present my hand and she reaches over to hand it to me. At the last sec, she moves her hand a bit to the side and drops the phone on the tip of my fingers, where it then falls to the floor. She goes crazy. You broke my phone. I want my money back and I want a new phone. Blah, blah, blah. I try to explain to her that her Nokia 3100-esque phone will not break from a simple fall. You would need to throw the phone into the fire of Mount Doom to destroy it. She doesn't agree and starts yapping. I tell her that even if her phone was an expensive smartphone like my BlackBerry, it would take the fall and still work. So drop it, she says. I ask if I drop my phone from the same height and if it still works, if she will leave, and she agrees. Now, I am not going to drop my brand new BlackBerry I purchased just weeks before to some dumb old coot that is sour because she didn't listen to my first advice. I think quickly on my feet and remember the stash of fake plastic phones right under the counter. I grab one that looks just like my phone and kamehameha that right into the floor where it shatters in 100 pieces. We both stare at the pieces for a second, and she's astonished. She fumbles with her things and takes her phone and never comes back. Story 2. Some snooty little teenager and her bitch friends got a bunch of free food and almost got me fired. Stiffed me and left me her number. I talked to her mother instead. Got $50 and peace of mind knowing that this girl is in trouble. I work at Olive Garden, and we have that oh-so-famous soup and salad deal. Well, I had a party of 4 come in, all about 16 or 17, and all ordered soup and salad. Considering they're my only table, I fairly quickly bring out drinks and their soup and salad. They all thank me and start eating. Before I walk away, they ask if they can see my manager. I assume they want to put in a good word. My manager comes over. Let me explain to him really quickly. He's from some Pacific Island country and has a very hard time understanding people when they talk too quickly, let alone how the company is run and how to even use the computers to put in orders. No, I do not know how he got this job. Well, anyway, my manager comes over and asks the table what he can do for them. Very little, obviously. They start complaining that I'm an awful server and have yet to bring out any of their food. According to them, they never got anything, drinks or food. Now it's quite obvious that they got everything they ordered. They demanded that everything gets taken off the bill. Now my manager isn't obviously going to argue with them because he won't understand what he's arguing about. So he just gives them all free food, free dessert, and a $25 gift card. And I get written up for customer complaints. But it doesn't end there. They stiff me, yes. One of the 17 or so freaks has the audacity to leave me her phone number with her name. I formulate my plan. I call her well after my shift with them, 2 days actually. After a few rings, it goes to voicemail once with the typical, "Hello, you've reached the Sprint voicemail mailbox of..." Perfect. She calls back. I start, "Oh, hello. I'm calling in regards to your most recent bill with Sprint." She instantly calls for her mother. Her mother picks up, "Hello. Sorry to call under such harsh pretenses, but your daughter recently came into an Olive Garden I work at, nearly gets me fired and then stiffs me." I go on to tell my story. She actually takes my side and makes sure everything is taken care of. The next day at work, I receive a letter with $50 and a handwritten note saying how her daughter will be selling her new car, never seeing the light of day, blah blah blah. Apparently she does this to a lot of servers and a lot of different restaurants, according to her mother who recently found out. Story 3. Working fast food one summer, a customer comes up and looks at my name tag, then makes some kind of rhyme out of my name. It was bad sitcom level acting. Anyway, he makes a small order, then asks for change for a 20. I was already on alert because of his stupid name thing, so I was paying extra attention to what he was doing. He handed me the money for the order but kept the 20. Watched me count the change, then pulled back and asked for it in 5s. When I had the change in my hand, I held out my other hand for the 20. He said he had already given me the money. I just gave him a blank stare and said, "No." He backtracked and was like, "I'll just go get change from the gas station across the street." Right. Story 4. I used to work for a furniture company in the mid-90s. One day, we got a memo that there was a former coworker who was using stolen cards to do in-store pickups or deliveries to fake addresses. Like an apartment, but they would pick up the furniture in the apartment lobby, claiming the elevator was broken or something. The FBI was getting involved because it was in the number of thousands of dollars across state lines. A few days later, I got a call. A big order. The kind of order that would blow over quota and give me a bonus. Can you deliver this to New Jersey? Sure. I took down the credit card info, then I asked for a callback number so I could relate the shipping info. They hesitated. I said MasterCard required it. Let me give you a Visa then. Uh-huh. Okay, I told that info and then said, oh, I forgot Visa does too. I'll call you back, they said. So I called the home office and told them I think it was those guys. The MO checked out. They said if they call back, try and get an Amex card. Then don't ask for a callback number. Just set up delivery. An hour later, they called back, got my assistant, and I told her to just take the order. She had an Amex card order for some ungodly amount. I called the home office and they arranged a sting for the FBI. Later, the drivers told me what had happened. They had to make a rendezvous point where they loaded a bunch of armed agents into the truck. Then once the woman signed the bill for lading, the FBI goon squad jumped from the truck and arrested her and 4 accomplices without much resistance. Later, MasterCard, Visa, and Amex gave me reward checks for recovering stolen cards. Sweet. Story 5. Working at Sears in electronics. Lady tries to return a video camera. I open the box to check the merchandise, breaking the seal. She's visibly not happy about that and asks what I'm doing. I continue to open it. It's a camera several years old in a new box. She pretends to be surprised. Man brings in Casio's keyboard box, proclaims he bought it from one of my associates. We do not sell keyboards. I explain that to him. He's angry and asks where he got it from then. I say, okay. I start to open it. He's very mad. I keep going. He runs out of the store. It's 3 pieces of plywood. Story 6. One of my friends was a purser on a cruise ship, and the lengths people would go to get a free room upgrade were astonishing. The best story was a complaint from the passengers about a water leak in the room that had ruined some of their belongings, and announced they would be suing for the full replacement costs of all their suitcases, and the stuff that was in them, cameras, laptop, etc. My friend dispatched maintenance right away. Water leaks on a ship are kind of a big deal. They were at the room within a minute of receiving the complaint, and they found that the passengers had left ice all around the cabin. Because of how fast maintenance got there, it wasn't fully melted even in the Caribbean heat. The window was left open. Purser told the passengers they would not be upgraded, would not be moved, they had to sleep in wet beds that night, and would be charged for the cleaning cost of the room when they reached port. Story 7. I worked in an insurance call center and a woman phoned up to say she had spilled bleach on her carpet and needed to replace it. She had the right cover. It was policy to send an inspector from a cleaning company around to make sure it was a total loss, and this woman happened to live very close to the nearest location. I told her someone would be around to inspect her carpet ASAP and that the depot was 5 minutes away. Then started talking details about the accident. She was not happy with all this, and when I asked her when it happened, she got all blustered and eventually said, "It hasn't happened yet, idiot." Story 8. I worked at a local pizza shop that also did wings and subs. I had one guy order 24 wings and a foot-long sub. He comes up to the counter asking if he can change the wings from barbecue to hot. I change his stuff and take his order out. 30 minutes later, he comes up and tells me he would like to speak to the manager. I went to get my manager and she talked to him for about 10 minutes. She then brings me into the back room and asks if I made half of the guy's sub cold and the other half toasted. She asked if I cooked and only made half the wings hot and the other half plain. Turns out the guy licked off all of the hot sauce off the wings and then took too long to eat his other half of his sub. He wanted his meal to be free because it was made of such poor quality. Story 9. A lady buys a pack of cigarettes and comes back in shortly after. Tells me that the pack has 2 cigarettes missing. Yeah, sure. And the 2 cigarettes of the same brand behind your ear got there how? A lady comes in and wants to cash in a scratch-off lottery ticket. I scan it once, nothing pops up. I enter the numbers in the machine, says the ticket is not a winner. She rips the ticket out of my hand and tries to explain that her ticket is a winner and that I am just too dumb to run the machine. Told her I would try one more time. I scan it, and this time I print out the "sorry, not a winner" receipt. The look on her face was one I'll never forget. I handed her the ticket and receipt and told her to call the number, the Ohio lottery number, if she wanted to dispute it. This man came in and dropped a case of glass beer bottles on the ground. No big deal, stuff happens, I understand. He then takes the bottles that aren't broken and tries to pocket them. The conversation went like this. Me, sir, what are you doing? Him, it's not like you're going to sell them or anything. Me, sir, look to your right. See those bottles of beer? Where do you think they come from? Him, so I can't have these? Me, no, please put them back in the freezer. That's my favorite story because all I had to do was clean up, and he stocked the shelves for me. Story 10. Crazy freak shaved his head to trick me into believing he was his problem-causing twin, and got me to give him $15,000 in exchange for UPS boxes of product. Okay, this is my best. Worked at a certain retail computer store. The customer comes in with a shopping cart filled to the brim with UPS boxes that were sent from the online store of the company I worked for. All in all, it's about 15 grand worth of servers and high-end computers. He wants me to return them for him in cash on the spot. Aside from the fact that the servers are both custom and not even available in retail stores, there's no way I could hand this guy $15,000 in cash and let him walk off. I explain all of this. He needs to return them to the online store he bought them from. I don't even carry these products, etc. And he loses his mind screaming. Seriously, screaming. About what a thief I am and how much money he has wasted on my company and how he will have my head. Me and my manager tried to calm him down, but he was freaking out. So we called security. He retreated to just beyond the border of the store and stood 10 yards away, still screaming about what a terrible person I am. Security comes and escorts him away. He is banned from the store. His photo goes on the wall, his name taken down, all that. 1 week later, I kid you not, the dude comes back in, with a shaved head, wearing huge aviators. Quietly approaches me and requests the exact same thing. He looked like the dude from Taxi Driver at this point, so I'm marginally scared he's about to stab me or something. I go, "Man, I told you can't come around here anymore. I can't help you with this." He says to me, "Oh, that was my twin. He causes lots of problems for me like this. I'm sure we can move past it." I'm like, stunned. I go get my manager and he repeats this story again. We're pretty much so stunned, all I can say is, "We just can't help you with this. I'm sorry. You have to leave." He loses it again, yelling, calling me a thief, and threatening to come to find me later. This time the real cops come in and escort him away again. Crazy. Story 11. I used to work for Subway and there was this one lady who would come in once every 2 weeks at about the same time. I first encountered her during my second week working, so I was still pretty new to this job. She told me she was highly allergic to mayonnaise and I would have to change gloves and knives, wipe down the entire preparation counter, and use wax paper instead of normal paper. Not knowing about her, I did all that was asked, thinking it was serious business, and we didn't want to get sued for causing an allergic breakout. After I cleaned everything she asked and got her bread prepared, she told me she wanted tuna salad. This woman wanted tuna salad. I told her that her tuna salad was made almost entirely with mayonnaise, and she argued with me. She told me she had been coming to this Subway for years and they never made their tuna salad with mayonnaise. Thoroughly confused, I went and asked my manager. Come to find out, she did this every time and she just wanted someone to skip a part of the cleaning so she could complain and get her money back. Story 12. A homeless man in better clothes than I was used to seeing him in, came into the store I was managing at the time and abruptly stated in a confident tone, "I own the store now and I would like to know a few things." Well, I knew the owner of that store quite personally and assured the man that no, in fact, he didn't own the liquor store, as I was more than certain that the owner would have told me far ahead of time if that was even the case. So I told this guy that. The guy shakes his head and then asks to come behind the counter to look over the records. At this point, I'm mystified. This guy actually woke up and thought he could pull something so dumb, so short-sighted, and so ridiculous as that he would think I would fall for it. So I called the owner right then and there and told him the story. It is total BS, just like I thought. The funny thing is, the guy would not back down, and I had to ultimately threaten to call the cops before he ran out of the store never to be seen again. I had a hearty laugh that day, but honestly, what the hell? Story 13. So I worked at unnamed major hardware or software company incorporated, doing tech support, and we had this repair service where people could send in their broken stuff to get fixed. If it was within warranty, it would be free, and if it was out, you could spend money to get it fixed, which is always cheaper than buying new. We all had the power to give discounts or even free repairs at our own discretion. So anyway, some dude called in and told me his stuff was broken. The first red flag was that he had no interest in troubleshooting the issue. He basically gave a scenario that was a complete textbook example of needing repair. It almost sounded as though he was reciting from our own knowledge base. But what do I care? Less work for me. So I run the serial number and it's out of warranty, so I quote him on the repair costs, to which he pushes back. Personally, I always try to judge people on their ability to pay the amount based on their reaction to the price. I've had a few people break into tears when their stuff was broken right before Christmas, and this guy was just unfazed. He went immediately to, "What can you do for me on the price?" I remained resolute and he continued pushing for it. It very much felt less like, "Could I please get a discount?" and more like, "I know you can give me a discount, so let's have it." And it's my choice whether to offer, so screw that guy, full price. So he sighed and gave me his information. Now, we had the system that held all orders and repairs and contact info from past customers. So it was standard procedure to see if the person getting a repair is already in the system. He gave me the info, but there were no existing records. I put him in the system, set the repair up, and got off the phone, like a boss. But that call, man, it was just fishy. So I took each of the pieces of info he gave me, phone, email, address, etc., and ran separate searches on each of them. Sure enough, other accounts popped up, about 17 in all, and each one had different repairs and different systems with huge discounts. Many were free. Well, I wrote up a big nice report on all this and sent it off to my lead. The recruiter lady from the position called me and told me I was completed, laid off, and not to come in the next day. Not a big deal. It was a seasonal job. Knew it was coming. Fast forward a few weeks, and my old lead, whom I had on Facebook, messaged me to let me know that she followed up on my report. Turns out they found 49 accounts total, and they all had ties to a used and repair shop in California. Basically, this shop had been scamming the company for 9+ months, likely offering repair services to customers and then having my company fix the stuff for free to make a profit. It's also assumed that people were selling the broken stuff to them so they can have it fixed for free and resell it. Story 14. Used to work at a bookstore, and for a while I was the guy who covered breaks for the people in the music and movies area. One day, a woman in her late-ish 20s, clearly someone who works out, fake tans, fake nails, you know the type, comes to the store with an open DVD and asks the guy at the front desk to do a return. He asks why she wants to return it, and she says she didn't like it. He then explains that we don't accept returns and open DVDs, shows her the sign saying as much, and says if it isn't effective, there isn't anything he can do. She gets angry and decides to try and come upstairs to try to get the refund from me. The front desk guy calls me and lets me know what's going on. I see her get off the escalator and watch her break the case for the DVD which she had bought. She approaches and I calmly explain to her we can't accept a refund because she simply didn't like the DVD. She tells me she wants to return it because it's broken, so I tell her I witnessed her break it on her walk over to me. She goes crazy at me and demands to see my supervisor. At this point, the person who was on break returned and is sort of my supervisor, so I told her the situation and let her try to explain the exact same thing. The woman is now furious and demands to speak to a manager. The manager walks over, we explain the situation to him, and expect him to say, "I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do." Instead, the pansy manager took one look at the woman and said, "Well, just this once, let's make an exception." Story 15. I work at a used video game and record store, and we get our fair share of nut jobs. The ass hat to take the cake, though, was about 2 months ago. A woman came in to trade in a few boxes of DVDs, CDs, and the like. My manager and I spent about half of an hour looking at the condition of the discs, and every single one looked like it had been ice skated on. There were a few cases with dead insects in them, utterly disgusting. We told her that we had to reject all of her trade because of the poor condition. She flips her mind. She starts screaming that we're racist, that she's going to bring her boys down to jump us. Then out of nowhere, she sprints out of the store, leaving all of her stuff. 2 hours later, she comes back in, says nothing, and just starts loitering around the cash register. Out of nowhere, she begins screaming that my manager sexually harassed her in a store full of customers. My manager is gay.